Justin Trudeau called Stephen Harper's photo op with refugees disgusting. But is he guilty of doing the exact same thing? Do you remember this during last year's election campaign?
Somewhere in the Prime Minister's office, staffers were pouring through their personal files to try and see whether these families, or find out which families would be suitable for a photo op for the Prime Minister's re-election campaign. That's disgusting.
Well, shortly after Trudeau came into power, his government rushed in tens of thousands of refugees. And of course, he and Kathleen Wynne were there for the photo op greeting the refugees. And we wanted to know what planning went into the photo op, so we filed some FOIs. That's where, if you recall, our ridiculous 300-day delay from the government came about. Well, guess what? It's been 300 days, and here's what we found out. What jumped out to me as I was looking over this first wave of documents was how detailed and how much priority government staffers were giving to making sure they had selected the perfect refugees for photo ops. Even making sure that staffers identified which refugees looked suitable for pictures and had them sign a media waiver before they got on the plane in Beirut. Let me read from a couple emails sent by staffers in John McCallum's office. This one, written December 7th, says, quote, "We are trying to assess what the best time would be to identify these refugees and have the consent form signed, and are thinking it might be while they are going through the process of boarding overseas," unquote. Or how about this one from a couple days later, December 9th, quote, "With the first DND flights," that's Department of National Defense, "there is enormous interest in ministers, federal and provincial, and media, etc., being on the ground to meet the refugees on arrival in both Toronto and Montreal. For privacy reasons, any refugee who would agree to being photographed or filmed after arrival has to provide written consent to this. We have the forms to be signed. The ideal would be for this to happen prior to departing Beirut, knowing that people can change their minds." Well, if you needed more evidence this government is more interested in photo ops than prioritizing vulnerable minorities in the region, then here it is. I think we all knew what Prime Minister Trudeau, Immigration Minister John McCallum, and their friend Kathleen Wynne were doing last year with their big media events for the first arrival of Syrian refugees. But to see the nature in which staffers talk about refugees as props in a government photo op is pretty demeaning and just doesn't sit right with me. But what else have we learned about the migrant crisis as we waited the 300 days for this information? Well, if you followed the fantastic reporting by our Faith Goldie, you will know that there are issues across this country where Syrian students are behaving badly in schools coast to coast. Allegations of violence and taunting towards Canadian students, and sometimes far worse. And after nearly a year of pleading with the government, the Conservative Party, and Michelle Rempel in particular, finally had Justin Trudeau and the Liberals acknowledge that they would prioritize persecuted Yazidis, Yazidi women in particular, as refugees. But not before Trudeau gave all the credit to John McCallum, despite him doing precisely zero work on that file. And we know as well that ISIS has openly stated they wish to infiltrate the migrant flow and send fighters to Western countries. So today I'll leave you with this one question. Are the Trudeau Liberals really interested in helping the most vulnerable while keeping Canadians safe? Or simply in it for the selfies? For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Thanks a lot for watching. You know, the migrant crisis is something the mainstream media and the media party will not report honestly on. Whether it's Syrian refugees in schools or what's going on in Europe, you know the Rebel Media is your home for the honest truth on this. So make sure you click subscribe on our YouTube channel.